So good evening, everyone, and welcome to a 60-minute session on Power BI. Now, the session is for people who have not worked on Power BI earlier. So it's an introductory session. But yes, I will be introducing the advanced topics to you as well. But if your expectation is that we are going to only focus on advanced problems, maybe this is not the right session for you. I am planning another session focused completely on Power Query and on DAX. But yes, this session is an introductory session primarily meant for people who have either not worked on it or have very little knowledge of Power BI to give you a glimpse of what all capabilities Power BI has. Right? So just keep that in mind because I would like everybody's expectation settings to be very clear. Okay. Most of you would know me from my LinkedIn engagement with you. So I run an analytics firm called Havisham Consulting. So I just spend 30 seconds on this. So I run Havisham Consulting. I do corporate work and business schools engagements. In the corporate, I do consulting and training on various technologies, predominantly Excel and Power BI. And then, of course, I also work on VBA, JavaScript, Python, or a little bit of everything. But about 70 to 80% of my work right now is as a data analyst, which is Excel and Power BI. The balance 20% has a number of different things in it. In terms of B school engagements, I have taught at a lot of top 100 B schools in the country. I've taught at 15 of the IMs as well. And what I do is conduct workshops, guest lectures, judge competitions, and so on and so forth. On my website, you can find some articles that I've started writing on Medium. You will find some codes available on GitHub. And then I've started my podcast recently with senior business leaders. So there are 4 podcasts that I have right now. Then you can also go to college engagements and see the number of colleges I've worked with and the sort of things that I've done with them. After that, in courses homepage, you can see the courses that I'm offering, right? So I have courses in different areas. In dashboard samples, you can see some ready-made Power BI dashboards that I have created. So all of these have been created on Power BI. We will be recreating something very similar in today's 60 minutes as well, but I just thought I'll show this to you. Right? So all of these have been created on Power BI and they have been embedded on my website. So you can go to my website and start interacting with them. As you can see, they are fully interactive. So on the website, you can click and everything is completely dynamic. Right? All right. Now, you can ask me questions whenever you want to. Either put it on the chat window or you can unmute yourself as you are comfortable. If your question is requiring a long answer, then I might not answer at that time. Maybe I will answer it at the end of the session, but then I will try my very best to make sure that all of your queries have been answered. Right? Okay, now Power BI is a business intelligence tool. It is a Microsoft tool available completely free of cost. Why do you need the paid version? Only if you want to share your reports with other people. If you do not want to share your reports with other people on the cloud, and you're okay with sharing it by sending an attachment, like you send an Excel file, then with the free version, everything will work, right? So unlike Tableau, where you don't have a free version, you only have Tableau public, in which you can't save your work on your computer. Power BI does not have that limitation. You can create as many reports as you want to, and everything can be saved on your system, right? Now, this is the data set on which we are working. What we have here is a very nice compact data with about 50,000 records in it. So it's a mid-sized data set, but it's a very clean data set. As you can see, what we have here is my order date, ship date, then I have my customer name, then I have my city, state, country, region, market. After that, we have some product details. So we have the category, the segment, and the subcategory. And finally, we have the sales quantity, discount, and profit. It's very simple data, right? It's a business that is selling multiple products to multiple segments around the world in 165 countries. And if I ask you what type of analysis would you want to do, all of you would tell me the same thing, right? Top 10 customers, trend line, forecast, which products are not selling well, right? What is the gap in the market, right? Things like that. What is the reason behind the growth in the last 2 years? But to do all of that, what you need to do is to make a pivot table or write formulas. Now, if you're working on Microsoft Office 365, okay, not 13, 16, or 19, if you're working on Microsoft 365, there is a button called Analyze Data. What I have highlighted here on the right side. And what Analyze Data allows you to do is to essentially use something called NLP, which is natural language processing. And without having to write any formulas or make a pivot, I can just click on Analyze Data. And without needing any other application, without needing to do any manual work, what will happen is Excel is automatically going to analyze my data like this. And now I can ask questions. For example, let me start with a very simple question. I will say, what is my sales? So it tells me that Habish's sales is $12.64 million, which is great. Or let's just call it 1 crore 26 lakhs. Okay. What if I want to see my sales and profit? So I can say, what is my sales and profit? Now it tells me the sales and profit. But what if I make it a little more detailed? I say, for India. You notice that it is now only showing me sales and profit for India. Very cool, right? And now if I say by segment, automatically only for one country, which is India, it is now going to show me consumer, corporate, home office, sales, profit like this. Now, if you want to do any further analysis or you want to make a chart, just click on Insert Pivot Table. In one click, your pivot table is created. And in another one click, you can make your chart as well. It's such a huge time saver, isn't it? Like imagine how much time it would have taken you to make a pivot, put the sales and profit, then put the row, then put a filter, right? All of that manual work that we are so used to doing has been eliminated now because you can do this so simply by asking a question like this. And these questions can even be more detailed. So I can say, who are my top 5 customer name in India, right? And it tells me these are my top 5 customers, right? You want to see who the bottom 5 are? You can say bottom 5, and it tells you who the bottom 5 customers are. Muskan, the recording will be shared with you. I have not done much. All I have done is I clicked on this button called Analyze Data in Excel, which is only available on Microsoft 365. And if you have this feature, then you can ask questions on Excel. Now, this is great, but it's Excel, right? I mean, at the end of the day, there will still be limitations to how powerful it is. What is the size of data set that you can work with? And you can only ask a question for one single file at a time. But what if I want to ask a question on multiple data sets at the same time, right? That is where Power BI comes in. So the same data that I showed you, I am going to load this data set into Power BI. So I have Power BI open here, right? It's a Microsoft tool, so there would be certain elements that you are familiar with. For example, you have home, insert, view. But then some things will be new, like modeling is not there in Excel, PowerPoint. Then here you have report view, you have the data view, and then you have the modeling view, right? Like this. So what we want to do is to connect Power BI to our Excel file. Abhilash, it's a free data set. You can just go online and just Google global superstore data, right? And you can download it. It's available free of cost. It's a fictitious data set, but this is one of the most analyzed data sets in the world, right? The global superstore data. There are many versions available, but you can just Google it and download any one. Okay, let's come back to Power BI. Now, like I said, Power BI is a Microsoft tool. So there would be some similarities between Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint, Word, and Power BI. But don't make the mistake. You should think of learning Power BI as a completely brand new tool. If you are an advanced Excel user, does that mean that you will also be a good user at Power BI? Not necessarily. Like I know of a lot of people in IT who only work on Power BI, they don't work on Excel. Even though it's very unlikely that you will only work on one, because of course you will work on Excel as well. But it is possible, right? That you're a Power BI user who never works on Excel files, who only connects Power BI to a SQL server, for example. How many types of data sets can Power BI connect to? A lot. And when I say a lot, I mean over 80 different data sets. So when I click on get data, obviously at the top of the list, you will have Excel, no surprise. Then you will have text, CSV, XML, JSON, folder, PDF. But then look at the number of other options that you have. You have different databases. So I have SQL Server, SSAS, IBM databases, MySQL, Sybase, Teradata, SAP. I even have Amazon, Google, right? Then I have the Microsoft Power Platform. Then I have Microsoft Cloud, which is Microsoft Azure. Then I have other online services, right? So I have, for example, Dynamics 365, SharePoint, Google Analytics, Salesforce, right? And they keep on adding more and more connectors, right, to Power BI. For now, our life is very simple. We simply want to connect to an Excel file. So I click on Excel, click on connect, and I will go to my desktop and go to Power BI and then select the Global Superstore Orders 2016. This part is just like making a pivot table, like you select the data and you make a pivot. In Power BI also, I'm doing the same thing, right? I'm selecting an Excel file and I'm connecting to it. So I select the table that I want, which is my sales data, and we click on load at the bottom, right? So far, very simple, no questions. And no, Amit, I'm not going to talk about Power BI Desktop and Power BI Server. That's a technical question only meant for certain users. 99% of the audience is only going to work on Power BI Desktop, right? And I'm not sure what the server is. I am assuming you're referring to the report server, which is when the organization is working on SQL and you want to have Power BI report server, but I'll not be discussing that. All right. So I have connected to I've connected to my data set, and on the right side, you can see a list of all the columns here, right? Now you can make a chart manually if you want to, but then why would you want to do that? You want to save time, isn't it? So I can click on Q&A. So there is a visualization called question and answer. And in question and answer, you can see that I can ask a question. So I can say, show me sales by state, okay, as a map for India, and just see what happens. One question and it magically tells me, this is my sales for all the states in India. Very cool, right? If you say state and city, right, you notice that it doesn't work, right? Now, if I only say city, then it works, but it doesn't work properly. You notice that there is a Salem, which we know is in South India, but a Salem is also somewhere, in East US. Now the point is, why is it not working correctly, and what can you do about it? Now, when you're working on Tableau, in Tableau we have an option to map the locations correctly. Power BI is much simpler, right? So if you're working on Power BI and you want to show the state and the city both, then I'll have to say by state, okay? If I just write city here, you notice that doesn't really seem to work, but that's okay. I will click on this button, which is to convert the Q&A result into a standard vision. And what will happen is, now I can make the change manually. So I can say that state is already there, and I want to put my city below the location in state. And I will also select my sales value like this, right? And let me just check once. Right. So what we're looking at right now is all the countries and all the state and all the cities. But what we want to do is in our filter, we just want to select India, right? So it only shows me India. And right now it is only showing you the states, but how do you see the cities? You can just click on this expand button and it will show you all the cities as well, right? And you can zoom in. Now this is only one of many maps that are available. So Power BI supports both Arc, GIS, and Mapbox. These are two of the largest map providers. So we have something called Mapbox, right? That allows you to create your own maps. And we also have Arc, GIS. You can Google it and read more about it. Both of these are supported by Microsoft. Power BI, right? Okay. But what if you want to do some business insights? Like, I know I can make a chart, but what if I need to know the reason behind that decline or that increase? For example, if I make a column chart, right, what you do on Excel as well, if I make a column chart like this, and I keep my order date and my sales amount, right, you can see that the business is doing very well. From 12 to 13 to 14 to 15, I have shown a growth all the years, which is great. But I really want to understand what has been the contributing factor behind this growth. So is the growth coming because all my countries are growing and all my markets are growing and all my segments are growing? Or is it because one segment is growing stupendously well and all the others are probably not so good, but they're also growing or declining? That's something we would like to verify. Now, there are two ways of doing this. After you have made a chart, a column chart, please see this. I can right click and I can summarize my data. This is an AI feature. So how it works is that you don't have to do anything. No formula is required. You say that I want to summarize and it will automatically create a summary for you telling you, let me increase the size here, telling you that Havish, your sales has increased for the last 4 years in record. It grew from 2259, so 22 lakh 59,000 to 42 lakh 99,000 from 12 to 15. And this was a growth of 20 lakh 40,000. How cool is that? But this result is also dynamic, which means that if I make a slicer and I keep my segment in it, and I say, no, I only want to see the details for the consumer segment only. So when I select the consumer segment, you notice that the results are changing automatically. See, in Excel, the problem is that every time we have to create a small summary, we have to do a calculation, apply a certain filter, write a formula, and then we have to copy and paste the text, right, and the values. Here, you don't have to do that. All of that will come on its own, right, like this. Even better, you can even write your own text. For example, below this, I can say that the profit, okay, during this period was, okay, just watch this. The profit during this period was, now how do I find out the profit? So I can just click on value here and I can ask a question. So I can say, what is my, simple, what is my profit? It tells me the number, 1467457. I can call it my profit, click on save, and it tells me my profit is 749. And the best part is that is also dynamic. What if you want to find out the sales for India? I can say that the sales for India was, I can insert another value and I can say sales India. It tells me sales for India is 5.89 lakhs. I can call it sales for India, right? And it shows me sales for India. Let me increase the font size. Right? And as you can see, completely dynamic. Right? Any questions so far, anyone? For a new user, how long will it take you to be an expert on Power BI? To become an expert, the first thing is that you cannot become an expert in a short period. You will have to spend at least 1 or 2 years working on Power BI. And the other thing is that Power BI is growing so fast that even if you learn everything that is to be learned, in 1 year you will become obsolete because 15 more features would have got released, right? So any user on Power BI is not a user who has learned a technology and is using it for the next 10 years, like SQL, for example. Power BI is a dynamic application. It's very new. It's only 5.5 years old. So even if you become an expert, which will take you at least 1.5 to 2 years, you will have to constantly keep on learning forever. I mean, you can never say that, you know what, I think I've learned enough and I can stop learning. My journey with Power BI started in March 2018 when I did my first training with EY. And I've been learning ever since. And the more I learn, the more humble I become because I realize there is so much more to learn, right? And if I look at the last 3 years and see the shift that has happened, it's amazing. And when somebody asks me what will Power BI look like in another 3 years, you can't even imagine, because now you have things like something called Power Apps. So you can build your own applications, like a mobile app. You can build your own applications inside Power BI. You have Power Automate, so you can do robotic process automation inside Power BI, right? You can create your own charts using JavaScript in Power BI. You can do API integration. You have R and Python that can be integrated with Power BI. So see, the point is that no one Power BI user can be an expert at everything. It's impossible. I might be very good at visualization, but I might not be very good at formulas and ETL. Somebody might be very good at ETL, but might have no idea about Python and R integration, right? So Power BI means different things for different people. On top of that, there are even external tools that you can add like this, right? Which adds even more capabilities to Power BI. See, the reason I'm showing all this to you is not to scare you or tell you that it is difficult. I just want to tell you that your goal has to be very clear. If you say I want to become an expert, that doesn't even make any sense, right? Because Power BI is such a vast tool. Nobody can become an expert at everything. You have to identify what is your requirement. If you're applying for a promotion, or if you want to learn to upskill, you want to get a job. As a B school student, your focus should be obviously on creating dashboards like the one that I showed you on my website. And I think that's great. The rest of it you can learn when you join organizations. Somebody who's already in an organization, it makes sense to learn Power Query and DAX. I'll be introducing both those things to you as well. Right? Currently, 90% of people use Excel. What will be the future of Power BI? See, I can't talk about what will happen in the future, but I can talk about what has happened in the last 3 years. Almost all organizations that I work with some 20, 25 organizations as a consultant. Everybody has shifted to Power BI, not even a single one. And I work with, global insurance giants and PSUs and Amazon and manufacturing setups and 50-year-old Lala companies. Everyone is shifting to Power BI. When I say shifting, it doesn't mean they're not using other tools. Of course they are, but they're transitioning. Let me put it like that. They're transitioning to Power BI. So I would expect that trend to continue going forward. Karthik, if you want to create a data set, why would you not have a data set? Just go to Kaggle and you have thousands of data sets available there, free of cost. Let's say you want something on finance, just type finance on Kaggle and you will have 10,224 data sets available on finance, right? That should not really be a problem. Prashant, Power Query has nothing to do with coding. Power Query is very different to programming. You have to learn it like a completely new thing. Whether you were a programmer or you were not a programmer, it has very little impact on becoming a Power Query user. Right? Yeah, so of course everything is important, but then Power BI is super important because I feel that just like Excel is written as a must-have skill in the job description, slowly I place a lot of people in organizations and I do a lot of recruitment for my firms, right? For the firms that I work with, and I noticed that now a lot of firms are saying that basic Power BI skills are a must. Like a candidate should know a little bit of Power BI at least, right? Okay. I'm not sure what that question is about. Any specific domain in B school you would suggest Power BI? Everybody needs it. Finance, marketing, HR. Everybody is working on Power BI now. Okay. Now the next thing I wanted to show you was another AI feature, which is how do you find out whether the increase from 14 to 15 has happened uniformly for all the regions or not, for example. So I can simply right click. Okay, watch this carefully. I can right click on 2015 and I can say analyze the increase. Did you see how smart this is? Power BI has automatically figured out that an increase has happened from 2014 to 2015, right? And the moment I say explain the increase, what will happen? It will tell me that Havish, there has been a 26.25% increase in sales between 14 and 15, right? And if you scroll down, you can see that year in market. So I can see that Africa, okay, has grown, but it's a very conservative growth. It has grown from 229 to 283. But if you look at APAC, Asia Pacific has had a magnificent growth. Asia Pacific has grown from 1092 to 1372. It's like a 27, 28% growth. But what if you want to see the amount of delta? What if you want to see the actual growth that has happened? You can select the ribbon chart and you can see that APAC has shown a 25% growth, 39%, 20%, 16%, and 23%, right? But if you look at it in absolute terms, APAC has had a growth of 2.8 lakhs, 3.31, 1.29, and so on and so forth, right? It's amazing, right? Like so far, I've not even written a single formula. All of this that I'm showing to you has been done simply by clicking on a few buttons here and there. That's the beauty of Power BI. It's a very simple tool to learn. It's a difficult tool to master, but it's a very simple tool to learn, right? Okay, let me show you Power Query as well very quickly. So this is the problem statement. What I have with me is, everyone, what I have with me is a folder with 3 files in it, 14, 15, 16, 13, 14, 15. All of them have the same data, as in the same template, but for different years. And I need to combine everything. I need to consolidate everything. Now, no matter how good you are with Excel, you have no other choice but to copy and paste, correct? What else can you do, right? You might know the best formulas and know all the tips and the tricks, but you still have to open every file and do it manually, isn't it? With 3 files, you can do it manually, but what if there were 30 files, right? So what I'll do is I'll copy the path, come back to Power BI, and there's a beautiful tool called Get Data from a Folder, right? So it's a feature in Power BI which allows you to create a list of all the files in a folder, right? So I click on Connect. I can paste the folder path here, and I click on OK. The first thing that Power BI will do is to tell me that, Havish, there are 3 files in that folder. So it is confirming that we have 2013, 2014, and 2015. I will click on Combine and Transform. And now we have to tell Power Query, or let's say Power BI, which is the sheet that we want to combine. So I want to combine sheet 1, and I click on OK. And now a new interface will open up, and this interface is called Power Query. So everyone, this is called Power Query. Before I explain the interface to you, let me tell you what is Power Query. So Power Query, you can think of as a middle ground between Excel and SQL. In Excel, also we do data cleaning. We add column, remove column, filter the data, write formulas. We can do the same thing in SQL as well, correct? But then Excel users and SQL users are far apart. Like there is a lot of need to do data prepping. You can call it data prep, preparation, wrangling, ETL, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. What we're doing is we're preparing the data. We're cleaning the data, right? So we want to do ETL, which is extract, transform, and load, which is exactly what SQL also does. But then unlike SQL, which is only something for IT guys, the normal MBA would not know how to work on SQL, correct? That is where Power Query comes in. So if you notice, Power Query can connect to hundreds of data sources. You can do APIs in it, so you can interface with other applications. You can create your own SDK. So there is a software development kit available. You can use that to build your own connectors. There are more than 300 transformations available, including some AI features. And here's the best part. Anyone can start because no coding required. But if you are a coder, it will help you to learn it a little faster, but that's okay. I mean, having no coding knowledge is not really a bottleneck that will not stop you from learning Power Query, right? Also, remember, Power Query is not available only on Power BI. It is available on Power BI, obviously, on Excel, on CDS, which is called Dataverse, Power Automate, which is the RPA tool that Microsoft has, and SQL Server, right? Analysis services. Okay, now let's see what happens. So I'll come back. You can see that a lot of things have happened. I have managed to combine the data from 3 files into a single file. And you can see here, everyone, we have 30, 40, 50. How cool is that? No manual work required, no copy and paste, no need to be a little unsure whether you made a mistake or not, because there's no manual work, right? You just selected a folder and it managed to show you the data from all the three folders, all the three files in a single folder. And what are the steps that have been written? On the right side, you can see that there are some steps here. This is sort of like a VBA macro, not exactly because this is not programming, but sort of like that, right? So all the steps have been saved here. And what you can see is, Prashant, M query is the same as Power Query. Power Query is the platform. M is the language that we are using. Right? Okay. What is the first thing that we did? We said go to a folder and take all the files from that folder. So the function is folder.files. Second thing, I remove all the hidden files because it is possible that that folder had some hidden files, which I don't want to include. So I remove all the hidden files. After that, I took the content from each file. After that, I renamed my column to transform file. I removed all the additional data. What is the data created the file, the data modified, what is the extension? I don't need all that information. Finally, I expanded the content and I changed the type of each column, right? All of this is happening automatically. But if you want to become an intermediate level user of Power BI, then you have to learn how Power Query works. This is how Power Query looks, everyone. Please keep in mind, this is only needed when you want to become an intermediate level user. If you're a basic user of Power BI, it doesn't matter because most of this work will happen automatically. But the moment you say that, no, I want to make some change here and there, I want to understand how it is working, then you have to learn it, right? To learn how Power Query works. Okay, anyway, let's go back. And the best part is that because we have done an automation, what will happen now is that, for example, if I make a column chart with my order date and my sales amount, you can see that we have the data for, just a minute. I need to select the other one. So I select my order date and my sales amount. Perfect. You can see that we have the data for 3 years, 13, 14, 15. But the beauty of Power BI is that if I take another file, right? So now I have the data for 2016. If I take this data and I put it in the same folder, right? How does Power BI get refreshed automatically? I just have to click on refresh. That's it, one click. And you can see that the data will get refreshed. How cool is that? Okay. Any questions so far? Anyone? Okay, let's see the question. Okay, Vagisha, how well is Power BI integrated with PPT? There's no integration between Power BI and PPT. And that's the short answer. The only thing you can do is you can download your Power BI report as a PowerPoint, but it would not be dynamic. It would just be like screenshots. So the short answer is there is no integration with PowerPoint, right? Whether learning M language is mandatory to handle complex problem solving, absolutely. I mean, if you're working in finance, for example, or in operations, or for that matter, in any function, some level of learning M is required. It's a must. How deep do you want to go into it? That depends on a lot of other factors, but of course, you need to learn a little bit of M. Without learning M, you can't work on Power BI, right? Isha, can I delete a specific file? Absolutely. You can modify the data in a file. You can add a file. You can delete a file. Whatever action you're performing to that folder, you can even add a subfolder inside that folder. Everything can be refreshed in a single click. Any other question? Anyone? Okay, so let me quickly show you how we can create a relationship between multiple data sets, right? Now, all of you will notice that we only have the customer ID, but we do not have the customer name. And why not? Because that customer name has been given. Let me just close this. because that customer name has been given in a different file altogether. So I have a separate file called ID and name, and you can see that it is telling me that DP 13,000 is Darren Pass, PO 19195 is Frina over, like this. So I need to connect this to Power BI. Now, usually we will use an index match or a VLOOKUP, correct? But we don't want to do that. Why not? It's manual. You have to write the formula. You have to copy paste the formula. It's not dynamic. Plus, you can't use VLOOKUP because your result is, okay, fine, I can use VLOOKUP here. But then you have to do the VLOOKUP with every single file one by one. You can't do it in one click, right? So we go back to Power BI. I will click on Excel and we select our ID and name. So remember, this is the second data set that I have. I already have the sales data with me, but the sales data does not have the customer name. It only has the customer ID. So I will transform it. And you can see that now we have two queries. We have my old, right? I just call it my fact underscore sales. And then I have my ID, which is dim underscore ID. But the problem is that these are separate tables, right? I have to connect the two of them. So I have to connect sales with my dimension. But I don't want to do a merge or a VLOOKUP. And the reason is this. Please watch. If I make a table and I keep my sales value and I also keep my customer name, just give me a moment. I just mute everyone. You notice that when I keep my customer name, which is coming from here, and then I also take my sales value that is coming from here, it doesn't work. It is not showing me the correct result. And the reason should be very obvious. My ID is a completely different data set. My sales is a completely different data set. There is no relation between them. Now, all of you will say, but Havish, why don't you write a VLOOKUP? I don't want to, and I'll tell you why. I can go to the modeling button and very nicely, let me just remove this table 30. We don't need that. What I can do now is I can create a connection between customer ID and CID. I can just drag it like this, and this creates a relationship between the two tables. No formulas required. In one click, by dragging a line, you have created a relationship, and now you can see that the result will come. How cool is that? Remember, we are working with 5 different files. Right now, I have the data for 13, 14, 15, 16, and another file that has a customer name. But what you see right now, this value for sample, which is 4,600, is not coming from one file. It is coming from 5 different files, right? That's the beauty and the power of Power BI. Does Power BI become visible to the other person who does not have their Power BI account? You don't need to have an account. I mean, even if you don't have an account, you can still create a report. You can attach it on an email and send it to the other person. But obviously, they need to have Power BI installed on their computer. The account is not mandatory. The account is only needed when you want to publish your report and when you want to download more visualizations. If you want to create visuals, write formulas, all of that will work even without needing an account, right? Good. Any other question? DAX is very difficult. DAX is one of the most difficult things in Power BI, and I'll be giving you a small example right now. Can we take printouts of the report? You can save it as a PDF. There's an option to export to PDF, but it will not be dynamic. So, like, do you see this? When I click on the column for a particular year, do you see how my data is also changing? Obviously, that all that will not happen if you take out a printout, right? Okay. The last thing we want to do is we want to write a simple calculation. And let me tell you why we are doing that. See, right now, I can make a chart which will show me, please watch everyone. I can make a chart that will show me the sales for each quarter. So I can see that in Q1 I did 3.38 lakhs, then I did 4.8. But what if I ask you what is the change that has happened? What is the growth that has happened, right? To do that, if I want to see the change that has happened, I want to do a calculation, I have to build a formula. And for this, we use something called measure, right? Measure uses a completely different language. This is not Excel. This is not Power Query. This is a completely different concept called Power Pivot. It uses a language called DAX. The engine is called the tabular engine. You can Google it, right? So if you just go to dax.guide, and you can see that DAX is used by multiple products. So it is used by Power BI, SQL Server, even on Excel you can use it, and it uses an engine called the tabular engine. How does it work? I can click on new measure and I can write a formula. Please watch everyone. I will say that my QOQ change, okay, please watch. My quarter over quarter change is what? I will do a calculate of what? Of my sum of sales. But I don't want to see the current quarter. I want to see the previous quarter. To do that, I can write previous quarter. By the way, all these functions are not available on Excel. They're only available on DAX. Okay, just keep that in mind. Once I've written this, I can bring my QOQ change inside the same visual. I'll put it in my tooltip like this. Let's see if it works or not. Right? Let me also change it to a percentage. Now you can see that Q1 is 3.38 lakhs and $3.38 lakhs. Then I can see that Q2 is 4.8, but it is not showing me the QOQ change. Just give me a moment. Okay, you know what? Just give me 1 minute because I don't have a date table. So I just take exactly 30 seconds to create a date table quickly. So I have my minimum order date, then I have my maximum order date. Right? Let me just quickly connect this as well. So I have my date table that is connected to order date. Perfect. And let's go back to the report view. Okay, let's do it one more time, please. Okay, so I have my access as my date, right? And I will also select my sales from fact underscore sales. Sales is like this, perfect. Now, how do I see the QOQ change? Please watch one more time. I will click on new measure, right? I'll say my QOQ percent change is equal to, and then I can simply say calculate the sum of sales. I want to select it correctly from the fact sales, right? Okay. And then I want to do the previous quarter from my date. And as you can see, everyone, once I've done this, something very interesting is happening. It is showing me Q1 is 74,000, but it is also showing me that the Q2 is 86. But you see that second number, the third line, it is showing me the value for the previous quarter. See, all of this is not possible on Excel. You can only do this on Power BI. But then how do you see the change? Like from 74 to 86, what was the growth or degrowth that happened? To do that, I can say that let's create a variable. So I'm saying that there is a variable called whatever, let's say prep QTR, which is equal to this. And then I can return a result where I will say that my final value would be, I want to divide the sales minus the previous quarter divided by the previous quarter. And why have we done all this fancy stuff? Because now look at the final result, everyone. How cool is that? In quarter one, we did 74,000. In quarter two, we showed a growth of 16%. Let me change it to a percentage here. We showed a growth of 16%, which became 87,000. How cool is that? Like this. Then we increased by 65. By 25, then we dropped from Q4 to Q1, we dropped by 61%. So if you want to show this detailed analysis, like YTD, MTD, running total, new customers. For all of this, you need to learn DAX, which is like this. Right? This is a very simple function that I've shown you. Usually DAX functions run into 15, 20, 25 lines, and that's very common, right? Yeah, so Power BI is number one, Tableau is number two in terms of the growth, in terms of how quickly organizations are adopting it. But in terms of market share, Tableau is a little higher than Power BI. But it's not a like-to-like comparison because Tableau is predominantly a data visualization tool. Power BI is a data, it's a business intelligence tool. So Power BI can do many more things than you can do on Tableau. But the quality of visualizations that you can create on Tableau are much better, right? For most people, it will be at par. But if you're an advanced user, there are many factors that come into play. And the reason Power BI is growing much faster is very simple. It's Microsoft, easy to learn, free of cost. Cost of ownership is much lower. For example, the paid account for Power BI will only cost you $120 for 1 year, while Tableau will cost you $840 per year for one person, right? Like I have a paid account of Tableau, which I'm paying 60,000 rupees per year. The same features in Power BI, I only have to pay about 9,600 per year. Can you see the difference? 9,600 versus 60,000 rupees. So when you're an organization with 100 people, then this total cost of ownership becomes a very big part because Power BI is easier to learn. With Tableau, you will also have to train people, you will have to upskill them. And obviously, the integration of Power BI with Excel is very strong. For example, in Excel, I can connect to Power BI. Let me just show you how that works. You can see that when I make a pivot table, do you see this option, everybody? I can make a Power BI dashboard and I can use that data to create a pivot table in Excel like this. Now, all of this is not possible with Tableau because Tableau does not have an integration with Excel, right? But you notice that Power BI has an integration with Microsoft Excel. See, I have both of them. I work on both of them. So it's not about me telling you which one is better. There are many factors that come into play. It depends on what type of roles you're applying to and what type of organizations you're working in. Like finance would never work on Tableau. Finance would only work on Power BI, right? If you look at marketing, marketing would traditionally work on Tableau because Tableau is a much older tool. Tableau was released in 2003. Power BI only came in 2015, right? So Tableau has been around for 12 years more than Power BI, right? You can just Google it. You can just say Power BI versus Tableau, and then many people have spoken about it as to which is the tool that you should be working on. I'm sorry, what's the question? Something about Power BI course helpful for initial, intermediate, expert level user. All right, so I have courses on all these three things. So in my Power BI course, I have a 6-hour course on Power BI, which covers everything: how to install it, how to get data sets, how to make a visual, like the absolute basics. Then I have a 3-hour course on DAX, which only covers how to build formulas. And then there is a 3-hour course on Power Query, which teaches you how to combine files, how to clean data, how to do ETL. Right? So it's a 11-hour course that includes almost, I mean, I would not say everything related to Power BI, but everything that you as a data analyst need to know. Other than this, there are many other things in Power BI for administrators and for IT people, but that would not really be relevant for you. I'm sorry, I'm still not clear about the question. What is it that you're asking exactly? Okay, there was one more question. Sarthak asked, changes which we do on Power Query can be saved as a new Excel file. You can just copy the data and paste it in an Excel file. That is also possible. Sure. Great. I would also recommend all of you to have a look at my YouTube channel. Even though my content is mostly on Excel, but then you will find a lot of stuff on Power BI as well, right? Like I have an entire 1-hour course on Power BI, right? Even though this is a little outdated because I haven't updated it, but then if you're starting with Power BI, then I think this is a great help to you. I think it's so exactly a 60-minute course that covers all the basics of Power BI. I'll just share the link with everyone. Being a marketing student, which one should be suited for your domain? Yeah, I think Excel and PowerPoint are most important, and then Power BI as well. I think these three would be the most important things. Even though I have courses on many different areas, so I have courses, if you notice, on there's an introductory course on SQL. There is a course on basic and advanced Tableau. I have some beginner courses in R and Python. At least in marketing, I think Excel, PowerPoint, Power BI. These three should be the most important things that you should be learning. I think that's true for all of us. I mean, Excel and PowerPoint are not going to go anywhere, right? So you absolutely have to work on it. Great. Any other question? Let me just see if I missed out on any question. Yeah, so Bhagesha, just to answer your question in more detail, if you want to create reports which are, pixel precision, we have something called Power BI paginated reports. I think I also have it. Let me check. Report builder, right? So Power BI report builder is like it's a report creator. It's like InDesign, in the sense that it's like Microsoft Publisher. This allows you to create your reports like this. But this is not an alternative to PowerPoint, right? Because see, Power BI in any case can be used as a PowerPoint alternative. Let me just show you. I just go to my website and show you how I will present a Power BI dashboard. Just clean up the other things. Okay. Do you see this? Just a moment. Right. So in the top right corner, I can just click on full screen. And this is how I present my dashboard, right? Everything is dynamic and it is just like a PowerPoint, isn't it? And it's fully dynamic. So even on the internet, you can ask questions. So I can say, show me profit and not sales, and the results will change. You can say as a table, and it will make a table for you. Right? So that question is not needed in the sense that you don't need to use PowerPoint anymore, because the Power BI dashboard can be presented full screen, but you can only present it full screen from the internet after you have uploaded it. You will not be able to present it full screen from Power BI desktop, because here you're only creating the report. You're not meant to display it to the user, right, as PowerPoint. Good. Any other question? Yeah, so that will change. It will change slowly. It has already started to change. Like a lot of my clients, I work with CXOs and they tell me that, Havish, we have told our team, no more PowerPoints. If you're coming for a meeting, you have to present everything on Power BI, as simple as that, right? So it's going to take time, because PowerPoint, a lot of people say it's not good, it's not the best way of presenting your findings and articulating your thoughts. But then what alternative do you have, right? Power BI is an alternative, but it will take time to catch up. So Power BI, there is one examination called DA100, which Microsoft conducts. It's a very tough exam. It's a 2.5-hour examination. You can give multiple attempts, but each attempt will cost you 5,600. And the scoring is on a scale of 1,000, and you have to score 70%. Right? I cleared mine last year after working on Power BI for 2 years, and I still found it tough. The only reason I'm sharing this with you is that those of you who have a goal for the next 2 years that you want to clear DA100, please make sure to start working right now. Okay, it's going to take you a lot of effort over a period of time. You can't learn Power BI in 2 months. It's impossible, right? Whoever you speak to, not just me. I know of people who have been working on DAX for 6-7 years, right? And DAX is such a fantastic language that the more you learn, the more there is to learn. Great. Anything else, anyone? All good. So I keep on doing open sessions. A lot of my open sessions are also there on YouTube. So if you're interested, you can go and have a look at that. I'll just share the link with everyone. So there are hours and hours of content on YouTube. I'll just share my long form videos with you. So I have about 75 hours of content, right? So there are 41 videos. Each video is about 1 hour plus. And there are videos on Excel dashboards, Visual Basic, Excel, PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, statistics, right? So I'm sure you will find something that you would like here. I'll just share the playlist link with everyone. And of course, if you're interested, you can see the videos. And if you're interested to purchase the entire course, I've shared the link for that as well. Wonderful. So DA 100 is a big achievement because it does take a lot of time and effort to clear it, but it's definitely worth it, right? Great. Anything else? Anyone? All right. So you can find me on LinkedIn. Any questions, any queries that you have, if I can answer it, I'll be more than happy to. Just ping me on LinkedIn and I'll reply. Thank you everybody for joining me. I know it was a very fast session, but at least for those of you who have never worked on Power BI earlier, it gave you that first glimpse of what is it, and now you can take that first step and download it and start working with it. That was the takeaway that I wanted to give to all of you. Right. Thank you everybody. Amit, the video will be on YouTube. It will be uploaded in the next 30 minutes, so you can have a look at that. Thanks everyone.